or welcome back to Literally Yours. Today we are going to study a poem called A Work of Artifice written by Marge PSC. It is the very first poem that you can find on your treasure chest book. So without any further ado, let's just start. Just like in any other poetry video that you might have seen, I start with the title, the significance of the title, why it is called that, or if there is anything, any clue that we can find from the title itself. So in this poem also, we are going to start with the context, like what is a bonsai tree, because if you read the first line of the poem, you'll find the bonsai tree, right? So we know that the poem will talk about a bonsai tree. So what is a bonsai tree? So in Japanese culture, we find bonsais. It is not a specific tree, like it is not like we have a mango tree or a cherry tree. No, it is like any other tree. Like it can be a mango tree also, it can be a cherry blossom also, it can be any tree that grows in nature, but has been cultivated in a shallow, small container with specialized artistic techniques to make it into a miniature version of the same big tree that grows in nature. So it is, you can say in very simple words, that bonsai trees are miniature versions of the uh, actual tree that exists in nature, right? So if you can see here, cultivated in a shallow container using specialized artistic and horticultural techniques, and the goal is to create a miniature but beautiful representation of a full size tree found in nature. So in nature, it exists in the big form, and when you do a bonsai of that same tree, it will be a miniature version of the same, right? So from here, we can come to the background of the poet and the poem. So Marge Piercy is an activist, majorly an activist. Now, who is an activist? A person who is involved in some kind of revolution. So as we know that feminism is a movement that started a long time back, and still now it is going on. It comes in waves. So we have the first wave of feminism, the second wave of feminism, like that we have different waves of feminism, and different people from different parts of the society, especially women, they came forward, they have been coming forward to fight for their rights, right? So that is what feminism actually means, right? So she is a progressive, Marge Piercy is also a progressive activist and a writer, and she's a feminist, and she writes about the experiences of women and how society often tries to curtail them. So the theme of this poem, A Work of Artifice, is also the same, where she uses the metaphor of a bonsai tree to critique how society, particularly a patriarchal one, limits and controls women. She uses this bonsai tree as a symbol for the women in our society. So since bonsai is a very beautiful piece that is kept for our entertainment, for our viewing, for the decoration of the house, women are also oftentimes, in many societies, many communities, women are also placed on that pedestal, and they are worshipped, they are given such glorified positions. But yet there is an internal sexism that is going on, there is an internal problem that is there, which is actually trying to curtail women. So that is what she talks about in the poem itself, right? So without any further ado, let us directly jump into the line by line analysis and the vocabulary of the poem, the important vocabulary from the poem. So the poem goes like this. It's a very short poem. The bonsai tree in the attractive pot could have grown 80 feet tall on the side of a mountain till split by lightning. So this is the first part of the poem you can consider, even though this doesn't have a stanza wise division, but this is the first part of the poem which describes that if this bonsai tree wouldn't have been a short bonsai version, small bonsai version, it could have, it is a possibility that it could have grown 80 feet tall. So instead, it probably is an 80 centimeter or even lesser than that, right? So she's comparing that this bonsai tree could have been an 80 feet tall tree growing on the side of a mountain, and there was nothing that would stop the growth of the tree except for a lightning. So if lightning and thunder strikes, only then is if other stronger forces of nature act on the tree, then only the tree will fall down. Otherwise, there is no human impact on the tree. No one can damage the tree or curtail its growth. It could have grown into an 80 feet tall tree. So this is a possibility. But what is the reality? The reality is that the tree is a bonsai miniature version in an attractive pot kept in the house. But a gardener carefully pruned it. It is 9 inches high. Every day, as he whittles back the branches, the gardener croons. It is your nature to be small and cozy, domestic and weak. How lucky, little tree, to have a pot to grow in. This is where the main problem starts, where we are introduced to a gardener. Now we can call this gardener as a symbol of the men in the society, or maybe the important people in the society, like society in general. We can say that this gardener is a symbol or representation of the society in general. And what does this gardener do? The gardener carefully prunes, or if you can see here, the word is given. Prune is to trim or cut overgrown branches or leaves of trees and plants. So to keep it in a certain decorative fashion. Oftentimes you might have seen that gardeners are pruning branches of or leaves from cutting branches and leaves from the bushes, right, bushes or plants. So here also this gardener, who is a representation of society as a whole, is trimming the growth of this bonsai tree very carefully with precision, okay, so that nothing goes wrong. So very carefully he is cutting the leaves and the branches so that the tree cannot grow to its actual size. And while he is cutting, it is actually, right now the current state is, it is 9 inches high. It is not 80 feet tall that it could have been. If suppose the gardener had not done it, it could have grown to an 80 feet tall tree. Or if it wouldn't have got this societal pressure on this, the women wouldn't have got the societal pressure on them, they are limitless, like any person is, right? They have a lot of potential. But what we as society we are doing, we are cutting and pruning and trimming the growth of these women and their potential. We're killing their potential, basically, right? So what he does, this gardener, every day he whittles back the branches. Whittles, as you can see here, whittle is to reduce something in size by cutting. It is generally used for wood cutting, like you cut slices of wood from a big piece of wood to make it shorter and shorter, and finally you give it some kind of decorative shape, right? So here the word whittle has been used in the sense that every day the gardener would come and cut a piece of the tree, okay, branches of the tree, and while he is cutting, he is crooning. As you can see here again, croon is to sing or hum in a soft voice. It is generally used when we are trying to coax someone, when we are trying to convince someone. So this gardener or society, or maybe men, okay, you can take any of these, you can use them synonymously. So what this gardener is doing, he is trying to sing to it softly or hum to it, trying to coax it by saying, it is your nature. This, he is trying to convince the bonsai tree that this is your nature, to be small and cozy, to be small in size, and to be a comfortable, beautiful art piece, right? So he's saying that he's trying to convince this woman who has probably a lot of potential. He's carefully cutting those areas of potentials, he's cutting those down, and he's trying to make this woman believe that It is how it is supposed to be. So many times, if there are any girl viewers or women viewers, so many times your parents might have also said the same thing, that it is how it is. You cannot go outside after a certain point of time, at night it is dark, right? It might not be the case for you, but I'm saying most of the women sometime in their life have come across this phrase, it is what it is, or men will be men. These are all same thing. These quotes are the same, have the same meaning, that you as women, as a woman, have to be careful. It is your nature to be small rather than be big and be a threat to a man. You cannot do that. That is not how it is supposed to be. Again, it is what it is, right? So he's saying the same thing, that it is in your nature to be small and cozy, small and comfortable, domestic, homely, and weak. This is your nature. You are not supposed to grow strong, to grow big, right? And then he says, how lucky little tree. Now he reminds this tree that what kind of comfortable life this tree has. Out in the nature, the tree is open to all natural forces. Anything can happen, right? So it's the same thing again. It is you can have the echoes of your parents behind your back, that you cannot go there. It is, you have such a privileged life over here. Why to go out? Why to face the problems? Why to go through it all alone? We are here. We are here to protect you. Maybe they do it out of love, but there are people who do it out of malice, even, that we do not want this person to grow to their full potential, right? So this is what it means, that he is trying to convince this woman, the man or the society is trying to convince the women that it is in our nature, that we are small, weak, domestic. We are not supposed to go outside. And then he is reminding that we are lucky to have a pot to grow in. Okay, we have a house, we have a home. Like in general, when we are talking about women, this is what we are reminded of probably every day of our lives, that we have a privileged, protected life. We should not venture out of it. This is our life. This is how we should live, right? So then moving on, he says, with living creatures, one must begin very early. Now, this is not what the gardener is saying. This is the speaker of the poem. So he's saying, with living creatures, one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. The bound feet, the crippled brain, the hair in colors, the hands you love to touch. So this is the last part of the poem and the most haunting part, where the speaker actually talks about what happens when you are, what is the mentality behind, making the women feel small. So the poet is saying here that with living creatures, one must begin very early. You need to start grooming them, to start making them believe that this is your life, this is your limited life, there is nothing else outside. You have to live this life because it is how it is supposed to be. So you have to start very early to drill that in their brain, because otherwise, naturally, we are all animals after all. So just like a man, a woman also has the same potential, the same abilities, everything, same opportunities, right? So it is the society, it is the societal construct that drills this very early in our brains, in the women's brains, that we are small and weak and domestic. There is nothing else for us in this life, right? So the poet is saying, uh, one must begin very early to dwarf their growth. There here means the women, right? The trees, bonsai trees. So we have to start early to reduce them. Dwarf here means to prevent something from growing to its full size. Dwarfs are people who do not have the ability to grow to a certain, to a normal height. But here the word dwarf has been used as a verb, where it means to prevent something to grow to its full size, full potential. So the poet is saying that we have to start, as a society, we have to start very early to drill this in our brains, so that in the women's brains, so that they are dwarfed, they are reduced in size. The bound feet. Now the poet is saying that this whole process that you're doing, it is actually it is like binding your feet together with ropes, tying your feet together with ropes, and to cripple, to damage your brain. Okay, make it small, make it damaged. the hair in colors, the societal standards of beauty that is associated with women, and women have to be a certain way, have to behave in a certain way, sit in a certain way, talk in a certain way, wear certain clothes, do not wear certain clothes, right? So all the beauty that, the hair has to be curly. If you remember the nursery rhyme where it talks about curly hair very fair, right? That if you can remember that poem, you will see that it is actually kind of very haunting if you compare this line with that poem, right? The hair in colors. So the poet here is trying to portray a picture of a woman who is considered the epitome of beauty, with the hair in colors and a crippled brain inside. So uh, she's trying to portray this image that this woman that we are making is very dwarfed in her growth. She doesn't have her own personality, because it has been drilled in her brain from the beginning that you are just a work of artifice, you're just a decorative thing to be placed in the houses to make a house a home, and this is your life, and you have to look a certain way, present a certain way, right? And then the last line, it talks about the hands you love to touch. Women are supposed, again, it is supposed to be having soft hands, right? So feminine nature. So it is talking about that societal standard that a woman has to look a certain way, with curly hair, properly styled hair, with lipstick, with a certain kind of makeup that is not overly done. It has to be subtle also, and very soft hands, care, like which is taken care of. Okay, not doing outside work. If you go and work in a farm, if a woman goes and works in a farm, then obviously the hands will not be soft, right? So this is actually what the poem means, that it is talking about a bonsai tree, which is a representation of women in society, and it is talking about how men, society, communities, how they cripple a woman to become and to believe that this is all that you can be, a work of artifice. Artifice means artificial beauty, or you can say something that is decorative. So a work of artifice here is a justification of the title for you, that it is referring to the women. So the title of the poem is very much justified, because the work of artifice is a woman in a society, or in a house where it is she is just a piece for decoration, for display, not for anything else, not for the outside world, where she can actually be anything that she wants to be, but she is made to believe that she cannot. So that is all about the line by line analysis, and I have also given you a list of vocabulary. Now we will talk about the themes of the poem. So we have a few important themes. The first one being the bonsai tree as a metaphor. So the poem describes a bonsai tree that, if left in its natural environment, would grow to be 80 feet tall, as discussed. However, it is carefully trimmed, pruned, and cultivated by a gardener to remain a mere 9 inches high plant, right, in an attractive pot to be displayed in a house. This stunted growth directly symbolizes how women's potential, intelligence, and independence are suppressed and limited by societal expectations. Then the symbol of the gardener as patriarchy, or a patriarchal society. The gardener represents the patriarchal system, the dominant societal forces that croon or coax sweet sounding but ultimately manipulative messages to keep women small and cozy, domestic and weak. Okay, so actually let me pause over here. All of this that I am reading from here, it is actually part of the notes that you will find in the description. So even if you're missing out, if you're actually taking notes while watching this video, you don't have to worry. If you're missing out, you don't need to go back into the video. You can refer to the notes given in the description, right? So as I was saying, that this gardener is a patriarchal society which often croons or coaxes these women, manipulative messages to keep women small and cozy, domestic and weak. The care that the gardener provides is actually not nurturing, but it is actually controlling and ensuring that the tree or the woman conforms to a prescribed decorative role. Then the next one is Artifice and Deception. So what title work of Artifice itself, it highlights the artificial and deceptive nature of this control. This suggests that the restrictions placed on women are not natural or inherent, like the tree that could grow outside. So that is the same thing it is talking about, that these restrictions are not inherent to women. Just like we are all animals, we have the same abilities, same potentials, right? But these are carefully constructed and enforced. And the poem argues that society creates a false narrative that convinces women that their limited roles are what it is supposed to be, or what is natural or even desirable. People love the soft hands, people love the curly hair, people love the subtle makeup and the certain kind of dress that women wear, but it is not how naturally a woman should be, right? So that is all about this poem. I hope you understood and you have learned something from this video. If you have any doubts regarding the chapter, the poem, you can always ask me in the comments and I will try and clarify it for you. And if you want to, again, let me reiterate this, if you want to have the notes, it is there in the description. You can take a printout of it and you can even read from there. It's a PDF, so you can make your notes and it will help you in your answers. And also in that notes at the end there will be some questions that will be extra questions, or maybe a little rephrasing of the questions that are already there in your treasure chest workbook. So that will be for your extra practice before your examination. So that is all for this video. I'll see you again in the next one. Till then,